There we go. Found everything again. All right, so we're going to be covering the image blending script tonight. For those of you that don't know, that one there is one of Mike Canfield's scripts. So if it's under updates and manage repositories, and let me make this a little bigger so we can see it. It's this guy right here, or I think this one here also. This one's really the main one here. I thought you might get it under this one also, this GHSS. Oh, no, that one there is for generalized hyperbolic stretch. Never mind. So that's the URL if you don't have it to get that particular image blend script. If anybody needs it, I'll tell you what, while I'm here, I might as well just copy it and I'll put it on the chat. So if anybody wants it, it'll be on the chat. There it is. So there it is. I just sent it out to everybody on the chat if you need it. So the image blend script, you will find under utilities when you do install it. So it's right here. All of Mike Camfrield's stuff seems to have this yellow type of icon on it. So you'll recognize the scripts in there pretty easy. So image blend is here. So I am going to reset this. So for those of you that have worked with Photoshop or GIMP or a lot of the others, the blending mode is really the key in terms of what we're using here. And you'll see that it has pretty much all the blending modes that you would see with those types of apps for blending two pictures together. Primarily tonight, we're going to be using the screen lightness for basically blending, adding luminance to a picture. I'm going to use the replace, and you'll see that's the default, by the way, but just to show in terms of how we're playing with or adjusting our picture that we're blending in, and last but not least, multiply, which works very well for adding contrast and giving your colors a lot of punch. But you got to be really subtle with that because it's pretty powerful. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to be working initially with the Heart and Soul Nebula one that I recently did because I happen to use this a lot for that particular picture. You can see here, you have a section that's called base image, which you can expand and contract if you want. And you have a section for the image that you want to blend in, okay, which you can also expand and contract. And at the bottom is basically where you set your blending mode and whether you want to update in essence, the base image, or do you want to create a new image? Typically, what I'll do is I'll always create a new image, but you don't have to. And if you're creating a new
So
image,
could
you
I
can
could
put your
I
image name right here.
could I ask a couple questions?
Sure, of course.
Are you working linear or nonlinear? Are you
Yes, that's a good question. And I was just about to get to that. Believe it or not, you beat
okay?
me to it by a short bit. And
All
that's
right.
where you can control whether you're working linear or not up here. So personally, the images we're going to be working with tonight are all nonlinear. That's how I like to use this image blending script, but you don't have to because you have the ability, this does have the ability to uh, set an automatic screen transfer function on the images. Whatever you do, both of the images that you use have to be either both linear or both nonlinear. You can't have one and then the other. It just won't work right. Okay. So if you're going to work with linear image, that's fine. Then you're going to be toggling this right here. And you can set your target background. So 0.25 is if you've got an image that's pretty loaded with nebulosity But if you're working with some nebula and you got a lot of background, or like with a galaxy or something like that, you're probably going to be closer to zero point 0.1 or 0.15 for that target background. Okay, so just a heads up on that. So I'm not going to be using this tonight because all the images that I'm working with in this example are all nonlinear. So, and that's how I like to use this tool personally, but you don't have to. You can work perfectly fine with it otherwise. So what I'm going to start with is my base color image in this case, which is this 4x color. So I'm going to pick Heart and Soul 4x DSO only. So this just happens to be the color image that I got from blending my narrowband pictures in the using the 4x color palette. Really,
Question.
nothing's been done to it. This is really the master image, other than the fact it's been stretched. Okay.
Okay, I was going to ask how far along is this? So you converted it to 4x and stretched it. That's it.
Yep.
Took
Yeah,
the
this is
stars
the
out.
4x color palette. As you can see, I took the stars out.
That's all. You've done nothing else.
I've done nothing else to this yet, right?
Okay.
So we're going to be doing a few things to it as the course of our progress here. So for the blend image, I am going to pick a luminance. So what I'm going to do now is I have this as my color. I'm going to blend in the luminance so I can add some of the contrast and details because that's where I always sharpen my luminance picture. So I'm going to add the Heart and Soul luminance DSO only. So once again, this picture you'll see has, excuse me, can't get rid of this damn postnasal drip cough. It's driving me nuts. When I talk, I'm going to cough, so I apologize.
Did you sharpen this? So is this from a luminance filter or did you make a synthetic luminance
This
and
is
then
synthetic luminance from the narrowband, and it's been
you
sharpened.
sharpened a lot?
And it's been sharpened a lot, and you'll see why
Uh,
in a second. You're not going to see this level of sharpening in the picture that
yeah.
we're going to create, okay? And you'll see right now the blend mode is replaced. So whenever it's replaced, all you ever see is the blend image. You won't even see the base image at all when it's in this mode. But this is useful. This blend mode is useful, and you'll see why in a little bit. So I'm going to change this since we're working with a luminance that we want to add. I'm going to change this to lightness at the bottom. And immediately, and what's nice is you have this nice preview button, so you can see a before and after of what this blending is actually done so far. So you can basically click on it. You can see the before and the after, and you can see obviously the amount of sharpening here is way too much, which is fine. We're going to adjust that. Some other nice features of this tool is that you can just click in the image, any part of it, and you can highlight a section, and it will basically just show you that section. And once again, you can see the before and after in the preview, which is nice. So let's say I use this section as the area I'm going to kind of put my focus on. So one of the things that you can do is your first thing you'd probably do when you're working with a luminosity is you might want to adjust the opacity of this blend image to really nullify somewhat the effects that we're seeing. So the amount of sharpening that we're seeing, I can really knock this down considerably, So what's nice is that you can adjust this to get it exactly where you want it to be. So once again, this is after, this is before. So we're starting to get, a little closer to where we want to be with this guy. It's still maybe a little bit too much. Now, if you want to see the whole image again, you just double click on it and it will go back to showing you the whole picture.
So
So
is
now
this
you can,
equivalent
so
to
you can
like
now you can
LR?
see what's that?
Sorry, Kevin, is this equivalent to like LRGB
It
process?
is. Yes, it
Okay.
is. But you have a lot of controls with this, more than you have in the LRGB tool. That's
Okay.
why
You
I'm
would not
showing it to
do,
you.
then going down the path, you would not then do LRGB. Like this is where
This would
you,
replace that.
okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Some other nice features here. Let's say you're not happy with the background here. maybe it's a little bit brighter than you want it to be, you can always bring the black point up down here in the blended image. And that's going to, immediately darken. See how it darkened the background? So it brought up your contrast even a little bit more. So once again, this is before and this is after. So maybe once again, this is still maybe just a hair too much sharpening in here. You can adjust the opacity down a little bit. Once again, before, after. So that's starting to look pretty decent. I'm gonna go look up here at the sole, see how that guy's looking. And you can see it does bring up, the details nice. You know, maybe I'll even bring the opacity back just a little bit. But you're starting to see some nice details in there without it being too much.
Now, so you overdid your sharpening so that you could then, so you went as hard, very harsh, and now you can just back it off using
Correct.
the opacity. Whereas would you do less sharpening on the lightness image? Or is this kind of like, this is like your method, like you overdo and then you can kind
Yeah,
of back
like you can look at your likeness image anytime you want by just going back to replace. And why did it do? Oh, it's because of the opacity. I'm sorry. So if I brought the opacity all the way back up again, you'll see the original image. And yes, I mean, I could, cut back on the amount of sharpness I did on this. But then I wouldn't be able to adjust the opacity much. You know what I'm saying? So what I like
yeah.
is I like the ability, Donna, to use the opacity to control just really how much of the sharpening is coming in from the lightness layer. That's what I
Yeah,
like to do. It,
I
it
see
actually
your
gives you a
method.
lot of control, you know?
See your method. Yeah, it gives you like a pretty big slider to work with because you've
Right.
got all that. Yeah, I gotcha. That's good. That's a good idea.
So
Question.
let's say I keep it somewhere around, 44.44 in terms of the opacity. So if like I said, you can use the black point to control darkening, but you can also use the highlights the other way. Let's say you want to brighten the image up from the lightness level, you can, from the lightness layer, you can do that. It's if you think that the image is not bright enough. So you have full control over both the dark areas and the lighter areas in terms of how much brightness you want to begin, primarily with the top two sliders on this blended image, on the blended image section here. Obviously, you guys have seen these sliders before, but the X just returns it to the default values on any of these things. So you just click on that, we'll bring it back. It'll bring the black point back to 0. It'll bring this back to all the way to 1. And the midtones is always right in the middle. And of
Now,
course, the opacity is at 1 also.
if for some reason you want a mask, would you put the mask on before? 'Cause I don't see any like mask um clicks anywhere. So would
Right.
you?
There is no mask capability on this, but yes, you could put a mask on the images that you're blending, sure.
On like your main, whatever you call the base. You
Yes,
would
the
put
base image, right.
okay, and then you could just say if you just want to work on the soul, you could do
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you tried of course, this is reminiscent of Photoshop. Have you tried, because this reminds me of like the high pass filter,
Yeah,
and then you apply it with soft light. Have you tried soft light or the overlay to see how it affects
on the
the
blending mode.
image? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried that, Chuck. And we can try it. We can try it for sure. I I will try it when we try blending in. I'll show you this in a second. In fact, let's apply this. I'm gonna save this image just like it is. So I have the create new image checked. I am going to basically just say heart, soul, and I'll just say with Loom, something like that. Click on our little checkbox here, and it is going to create a new image. Still running. Okay, so we have a new image. I am going to just shut this down temporarily, and you can see this is the image it just created for us. So we'll get back in and we'll try what you're talking about, Chuck. Before we go too far, I'll go into utilities. This is kind of where you can use the image with itself in a number of different ways. Now, multiply is the one I've tried, but I've not tried soft light or overlay. But let's give it a shot. So when once again, when you come back in here, remember it's the last thing you did. So I always reset this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to pick the one that we just made, Heart and Soul with Loom. And before I do anything else, I'm gonna pick the same image again. And this time here, we're going to try a blending mode instead of replace. We're going to try multiply. Now, multiply, it is what it sounds like. So what it will do, it's not something you want to do for every image, but what it does is it really accentuates the contrast and it really pops up the colors. Now, you would never use it with an opacity of 1. You'd be using this with an opacity way low, something like that, maybe. And what it does, you can see it. You can make it as subtle or little as you want. I just have 10% here. Let's knock it up to like 15. And what it does is it basically just subtly adjusts the contrast in your image, really makes the colors pop a little bit more. It's not good for every picture, I don't think. And honestly, you can adjust this once again. Let's say I want to use the highlights slider here. And I'm going to adjust this up to like, say, 20%. So you can see what it's just making the colors a little richer and the dark's a little darker and the lights maybe a little bit richer, you know? I mean, so it's not for everything, but I just wanted you to see what it does. And I'm going to try Chuck's idea. Instead of using multiply, let's see what will happen if I use overlay. So that's before and after. I'll adjust opacity a little bit here. So that kind of brightens things up a little bit. Let me set all the black point and midtones and everything else back to default. But so yeah, I've never tried the overlay, but it seems to have a similar effect. So this is after, this is before. So it seems to brighten the brighter areas and darken the darker areas. I'm not sure if you'd want to use it all the time, but let's knock the opacity down again. So yeah, it's pretty subtle, but you can see the difference between the two.
And is that a typical practice where you use the same image as to blend into the
Yeah, and you
original?
know where I learned this when I was playing with this in Photoshop mode, but I also recently saw it specifically with this tool with Adam Block. He's got a whole video on the ImageBlend script. He's got a
Yeah,
video on this where he specifically uses the multiply blending mode.
and the
But I used to do that in Photoshop.
the same two images because you're
Yeah,
using.
same two images. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I watched this video, but I gotta go back and rewatch that. I've not tried this yet.
right. I don't see a lot of difference using the soft light either. But it seems all three of them seem to do the same thing, but I think the multiply has the strongest effect. Um, and so in some images, maybe if your nebulosity is subtle, not not very strong in color, the multiply might be something you may want to try. I'll go back to the multiply one here. Go back to preview. So this is the multiply. This is after, and that's before, after, before. So you can see what it does. It definitely brings the contrast between the dark, makes the darker areas darker and the lighter areas lighter. But once again, you can control this somewhat, obviously with the opacity. So the higher the opacity, the stronger the effect. The lower the opacity, it's just a minor effect, so you can see the difference here. Any questions so far? I'm not going to save this, but
I have a question, kind of a basic question.
sure.
I was wondering, it starts out black and white, correct?
Actually, the images that we started out with are, I have to close this down, but this is the image that I started out with. This is a color image that I created from narrowband pictures. This is the 4X color palette. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that. I use this script right here from SETI Astro. It's called where is it?
The
Perfect palette picker. This one here. So I use this one here.
Okay. These are
and
pictures you took with your telescope, correct?
Yeah, these are pictures I took with my telescope. Yeah.
Okay. And they come black and white, or do they come in color?
They all come in black and white because I use a
Okay.
monochrome camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you get to something with color like
Okay.
that? How does
That's
it
what I was just
determine what?
showing you. Let me, I'll tell you what, let me I'll open up the
I may
basic
have missed
set.
that part. I was trying to play around with my microphone and my video wouldn't come up, so I was focused on trying to get that to work. But I was just wondering what makes it orange? What makes it,
Yeah.
because you
So,
chose that filter?
yeah, so there's a
Or,
lot of ways you can do it. I happen to use that script, but
oh, the
you could
script? Okay.
basically use are you familiar with PixInsight at all?
Not with that app. I'm familiar with with Photoshop, stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay.
But
So, I mean, you can even use like a channel combination where you put the narrowband images into these RGB things. So that's
okay.
one way of doing it. So that you're basically creating a color picture. Like I said, I happen to use this script here. It's from a guy called SETI Astro.
Yeah, it was in the
And
notes there. Oh,
pardon me,
it's in the chat list.
it's not in the chat list. You know what? I can add that to the chat list. He has a tool that if you don't use PixInsight, he has a tool that that runs all these capabilities entirely in Windows outside of PixInsight. It's a full application like Photoshop that has all these, and it's made for, sorry, it's made for, let me bring it up here. It's actually made for, astronomy pictures.
Yeah.
SETI Astro, there it is. And so he has what's called the SETI Astro suite. So you can go to downloads or Astro programs,
Okay.
SETI Astro Suite Pro, and that's actually a free application. He asks for a donation, but you don't have to give him a donation. And all the functionality that I am using is all in this application, basically.
Okay.
So it runs in Windows. It runs entirely outside of PixInsight, so you don't need PixInsight at all to do this stuff. And
Okay.
it basically he has the same tool in there as I am showing here, which is what's called Perfect Palette Picker. And then what you do is you specify which is your hydrogen alpha image, which is your oxygen 3 image, and
Yeah.
which is your sulfur 2 image. And he'll give you, as soon as you click on the Create Palettes button here, it's going to show you a little thumbnail picture in all the different color palettes. And the one I'm using is this one in the bottom right, 4X.
Okay.
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 And
Thank you.
4X is a bit more complicated than the others. These are
So
all
when you,
simple,
just a
simply.
basic question, when you're taking the pictures of the stars, you're scanning for hydrogen, you're scanning for oxygen, and that way you blend the pictures together and get the colors, or
Yeah, I actually, to get proper colored stars, I actually take pictures in red, green, and blue also, just for the stars. And then I blend the stars in afterwards. So,
okay.
but yeah, you could also do, he has another tool under his SETI Astro suite, and it's called narrowband to RGB star combination. So what you do is you give him your hydrogen alpha image that has, with the stars, the oxygen
Uh-huh.
3 image with the stars, and the sulfur 2 image with the stars. And what he does is he does a pixel map and blends the images in such a way so that the stars will have as natural a color as you can get. So this is another tool that you can actually get very good colored stars without actually taking the RGB filtered images.
Okay.
Okay.
So Kevin, while you're on all the study stuff, do you not use channel combination then anymore? Do you do all of your combinations through the palette picker?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no. I only narrowband do I do that. If I'm doing any RGB stuff, I still use the channel combination.
Okay, okay.
And sometimes I try to channel combinations even with the narrowband stuff, but palette picker does the same thing, right? I mean, it's doing the exact same thing channel combination does. The only difference is, if you look at it, it shows you all of the palettes at once, So
Yeah,
SHO is just putting the sulfur in the red, the hydrogen in the blue, in the green, and the oxygen in the blue. HOO is just putting the hydrogen in the red and the oxygen. I mean the oxygen in the green and the blue, and so forth and so on. It's only when you get down to these last three here that it does some additional math based on how strong the images are in terms of their image, the intensity compared to each other in order to come up with the color scheme. So I like this because it does all the work for you in terms of seeing which images that you like, the color scheme you like the best for that particular picture.
yeah.
So by the way, when you find the one that you like the best, you just click on the image and it actually creates the picture for you. And that's how I got this picture that you see right here. Minus, obviously, it had the stars in it too. I ran the Star Terminator app to remove the stars from here. But yeah, basically, this is the image that came out of that tool.
I think that looks nice.
All right. All right. So we're going to move on here. So I also have two images here. I have a narrowband oxygen 3 image that I stretched. So here's kind of what the image looks like, by the way. You were asking about that. This is my narrowband image for just oxygen 3. And then here's my narrowband image for just sulfur 2. Okay. So don't like this red here. Hopefully this whole PixInsight app doesn't crash on me. So anyways, now I'm going to do is I'm going to use the oxygen 3 to add some blues into the inside here. And you're going to see how that works. I just want to, the blue is in here already somewhat, but I don't think it's strong enough for my taste the way it came out of the 4X palette. So what I decided to do is I decided to use this, I'm sorry. I decided to use the ImageBlend script once again. I've got my Heart and Soul Nebula here. And now for the blend image, I'm going to use my Heart and Soul Oxygen 3 image. And before I do anything here, I'm just going to show you the image. Actually, I got to reset some of this stuff. Okay, good. So this is the image here, the Oxygen 3 data, because I got it set for replace, remember? So what I like to use replace for is I like to adjust the blended image before I actually do the blending. So if I go back here to set it to screen, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the filter type here to color. Okay. And the color I'm going to set it to, in this case, since it's oxygen 3, is I'm going to set it to a blue. Now, if you want to see what color that blue is, you can change this back to replace, and you can see what the image looks like here. You know, you can decide if this is the blue, you know, the kind of blue color you want to blend in or not, you know. So I would like to go a little less, you know, darker blue, maybe a little bit lighter here.
Yeah.
You know, something like over this way a little bit. Yeah, maybe something like that. And you can control, you know, both the background once again. So I don't want this blue here in the background when I blend this stuff together. So I'm going to move the black point up so that it starts to darken this background area. So now we got this background nice and dark. And I want to brighten this stuff a little bit so that it is going to show more in the blended image. So you can see now I'm bringing that out, getting a little bit brighter. So now we can change this back again to screen to see what it looks like in the blended image. And you can see, once again, if I go before and after, that's before, and this is after. You can see how it's starting to bring in more of that blue. Now I can adjust the opacity so I can control just how strong an effect I want to have on that, you know? So once again, before and after, before and after. So maybe once again, I don't like the way that blue is. Maybe I want it a little bluer. So I can slide the slider over a little bit. You can see what it did, you know? Once again, I can control how that blue is blending in with the overall image, you know? So I'll go back to replace to see, because I want to really target these areas here more than, you know, like out here, or certainly in these areas. So I can go back to replace and I'll set the opacity back to 1 again. So I'm just looking at this blue image, and I can focus so that I want less of the blue out here, you know, out in these areas, and more on the inside. And the way you do that is you can adjust, once again, your black point. Okay. You can play with your highlights. And you can play, well, that's way too much. And you can play with your midtones also.
Could you make the black transparent?
Well, if it's black here, it will be
Yep.
transparent in its effect. Transparent in its effect when we blend it. So
Okay.
when I go back to screen mode now, we're not going to really see any of that blue in this black area here. And you can see it really went away in this area here. It's really now focused where I wanted it focused in these sections here, because that's where it shows up on replace, right? I mean, now I have it really targeted in the areas that I want that blue to be. So if I go back to screen, you will see just it's primarily targeted in those areas now. And once again, you can control the effect of it by adjusting the opacity. So I can knock the opacity down a little bit, and it will adjust the impact on this image. So now, once again, this is before and after, before and after. Any questions on that?
So what would you now call this image? Would you still call it 4X, or would you
Not-
call it
Yeah,
4X?
it's not 4X anymore. I mean, now it's the color palette's been adjusted some. Once again, I'm getting artistic here with the image.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily wrong in that that blue is oxygen, and that oxygen is there. I'm not making something up. I'm just accentuating areas, right? So, and we're going to do it with the sulfur also. So I'm going to save this. I'm just going to call this guy Heart and Soul, and I'll call it O3 added or something. Uh, so I have
Did
it set
you
to create a new image. I'm going to just hit, actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to create a new image. I'm going to update the existing image. And we're just going to hit the checkbox here.
would you use color masks to go after the colors to
You could, yeah, you
increase
could.
the curve, saturate whatever else needs to be
Yeah, yeah,
done?
you definitely could do that.
Yeah.
This is
Oh, that
a
was my
just a
next
more
question.
controlled way of blending it in, but yeah, you could do that, Chuck, for sure.
Like that selective color corrector, you could maybe
Yep.
use that, bring out the blues a little bluer.
This gives you more control, I think, but you could definitely do that. So last but not least on this image, I'm going to add in some yellows to highlight certain areas where the sulfur is strong. Once again, I'm going to reset this by this little reset button at the bottom here. My base image now is going to be the Heart and Soul with Loom that we just added the O3 to. And now my blend image is now going to be the Heart and Soul Sulfur 2 image. Uh, and in this case, here's what the Sulfur 2 looks like. In replace, you can see exactly what areas are going to be highlighted here. So I am gonna, before I even blend the image, I am going to darken once again this background area by adjusting the black point because I don't want any yellows in the back. So I'm just gonna make sure this black the base area or the background here is all pretty dark. And then I'm going to set this to filter type of color again. And we're going to set it right in the middle of the yellow here. So you can see the yellow that it's going to blend in right now. I'm not going to touch the highlights yet. I'm just going to now set this to screen. And we're going to see the impact it has on our image. So once again, this is before, after. So you can see it kind of replaced a lot of the reds with the yellow, and we really don't want to do that. We might want to blend it together, but that's where the opacity comes in, and you can now play with the midtones, the midtones, the highlights, and the black point. And of course, we'll play with the opacity in terms of how much of an effect it has on the image. We can get a blend of both, the red and bringing in the yellow a little bit. You can see what it's doing. Let's say I want to go back to replace, and so we can see what we got here. So I'm going to reset this to 1 so I can just see this image. And let's say what I really want to concentrate is not so much out here, but maybe in where the brighter yellows are here. Down in this area, up here, maybe up here. But maybe leave a lot of this alone. And the way, once again, you can do that is playing with the black point. So we'll increase the black point. And now we're really bringing in where this is coming in. What I will do is I'll probably play with the highlights a little bit, brighten the areas that we've got. I'm going to play with the midtones a little bit. Maybe I'll go the other way. So it's maybe something like that, where it's not targeting everything as much. In fact, maybe I'm going to go even up a little bit more with the black point. So we're really going to target just the brighter areas of the sulfur. And then we'll go back to screen and we'll see what it does. And you can see what it did. It's now targeting just certain areas. So let's zoom in here.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll zoom in here, and now we can see the before and after what we just did, which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
I love that you can just really pinpoint what you
Yeah.
want.
And once again, we can control the effect of this with the opacity. If we want to lessen the impact a little bit, we don't want it to be over strong. so we can keep knocking this down so we get it to a point where we're happy where it is.
That's cool.
Maybe something like that, where we find that balance. So you double click on this, it brings it back to the original image. We'll take a quick look at the Soul Nebula and what it did to this. And I think the Sulfur 2 really brings out a lot of these structures here, kind of highlights the back of them, so see what it does? Especially up in here. I think it has a pretty cool effect to it. So, it just gives you an idea of the stuff that you can do with this. I picked yellow. The beauty is you can pick any color you want. Maybe you'd prefer something instead of a hue of 60, maybe a hue in the middle of the green. Whatever. You can pick whatever you like. It doesn't have to be yellow. I thought the yellow was the one that actually did something, kind of cool to the contrast of certain areas. But anyways, yeah, so let's say that we're happy with this. I will actually once again save this into the original image. Go with that. And then last but not least, well, actually, I don't have the stars. I have the star image, the star only image off on its on a outside drive here. So I don't want to plug that in right now. But here's the image before I put the stars back in. I thought it, came out pretty good,
And
Yeah, it's very nice.
you're like done. You don't have to do any more sharpening.
Nope.
It's like beautiful.
Yeah, it came
So
out good. It's got a lot of structure in it. It's got a lot of neat colors in it. Got good contrast with the background. It's just got pretty much everything you want. I think the background might be a little too dark, which can easily be adjusted with curves. But yeah, 0.05 is darker than I would normally go, but that's easy enough to correct. But anyways, yeah, this is just an idea of what you can do with ImageBlend. I'll show you another use case. Let me get this one out of the way.
Just a basic question.
Sure, of course.
Do astronomers use certain colors for certain chemicals so that we have a consistent image? Like if I handed an image to you, you would know, okay, that's the yellow of oxygen or whatever color that is. Is there any kind of standard color scheme?
There is there's Hubble uses a certain palette, which is basically SHO, which is they assign the sulfur to red, the hydrogen the green, and the oxygen the blue. And you know what? That's fine. I don't really like green in my pictures that much myself. It's really personal choice, I guess, but everybody's different, right? So in answer to your question, when it comes to narrowband representation of data, that's probably the closest I could give you. I don't know what do the rest of you guys think? That's what I think, but
I'm just learning narrowband, so I'm trying to figure it out myself.
Yeah. It's really what you like, right? You play with the color palettes till you get something that you like for the image.
Right. It's what's interesting is every target is most often strong in hydrogen, but some targets are stronger in sulfur than others and stronger in oxygen than others. And then when you blend those colors together, those narrowband images together, you get very different color palettes depending on the target you're shooting. Some nebula will end up being a lot bluer because they got a lot of O3 in them. Then typically what you see is reds and blues. That's the most common thing. Sulfur, this particular target here is pretty strong in sulfur, but you don't see that often in any nebula. So,
a lot of sulfur.
Yeah, it did seem to have a pretty strong sulfur component to it.
The bottom line, we're all creating a picture for what we like to see.
Right.
We're just, using our own perception.
So this is a picture of the Andromeda galaxy that I took. Once again, this has not been processed at all other than RGB. This is an RGB picture where the image has been basically brought together and the stars extracted out, and it's been stretched some. And that's it. That's what we've had on it. Get this thing out of the way. So what I'm going to show is a way you can add hydrogen alpha. In this case, a continuum subtracted hydrogen alpha, which is this image here. So what does continuum subtracted mean? So this is where hydrogen is also in the red area of your RGB. So what this has basically had taken out of it is the red that is in the rest of the rest of the image here has been taken out, and what you're left with is the strong hydrogen areas in the galaxy. Okay, and once again, this tool that I used to get that picture, this is simple pixel math that did this, but I used a SETI Astro tool called continuum subtraction utility to get this, and where you supply the hydrogen, the oxygen 3, and the sulfur 2 if you have it narrowband. If you're using an RGB image, you can tell it the RGB image that you use. And if you have a green image, which you can extract from the RGB, you can tell and it will basically calculate the continuum subtracted hydrogen alpha that I want to use here. Both of these are nonlinear, so they've been stretched to a minimal degree. And I'm going to show you how you can basically blend in the hydrogen into this image using the ImageBlend script again. And it's the same technique we just used before. So once again, I'm going to reset this. I am going to bring up our Andromeda color master as our base image. And then I am going to use a filter type of color again. I'm going to set the color to in the reddish pink area-ish, maybe around 330 or something like that in this area. Well, the color I want, we can adjust this afterwards. And I'm going to set my blend image as the Andromeda continuum subtracted image. And I'm going to set the blending mode to screen again. And there you go. So once again, you can see there's a lot of red in the background here. So the first thing we got to do is we've got to adjust this black point so that we can get that red out of there. And you can see all that red area. So I'm going to really zoom in on this so we can get maybe the color the way we want it.
Well, that makes it so easy.
So
Yeah,
Kevin,
so, maybe that's a
sorry.
little bit too dark a red. I maybe move it over a little this way. And once again, I can adjust the opacity to get it so that it's not overbaked maybe. I'll zoom it back out.
Now, Kevin, do you typically put it in at this point of your processing, or would you process the base image a little further and then put this in, or is this where you typically do it?
Good question, Donna. I don't think it makes any difference, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But this makes it real easy. Now I'm going to go back to replace to see what the colors look like on just the HA.
You get a
And
lot of blues. I see a lot of blue in there.
yeah,
with
I'm getting the
giant-
blue out of there. So this is just the red now. I'm going to zoom in on it so we can see if the color is where we want it to be. It's supposed to be a little pinky. I don't know if this is too pinky, but here's where you can set the color the way you want it, the way you want it type of thing.
We're just working on the blend image.
Yeah, see, that's got too much purple in it.
Mm.
And we can just keep going to the right here on the red until we're happy with what we see. Maybe that's it there. Now, maybe I don't want any of this red here. You could play once again with the black points a little bit more. I could even brighten it a little bit by hitting the highlights. Maybe that's too much. But you can see what I'm doing here. I mean, you can kind of get it where you want it. And then you can basically set it back and see what it will look like when you put it back in screen mode again. So now I'll double click and now you can see this is before and this is after. Before, after. You can see how it is basically bringing in the hydrogen alpha areas brighter. And once again, it's probably once again too bright to a certain degree. You don't want it to be too crazy, but this is where you can adjust the opacity of it so that you're not overcooking it. But what's nice is that you have a lot of control with this. You can get it however you want it,
But I bet as you process the rest of the image, it's gonna it'll come to kind of like a balanced point,
Right.
know?
Right. So once again, this is before and after. Before and after.
Oh, I can't wait to learn how to use. Can't wait to play with it.
Yep.
For what it's
Anyways.
worth, that's very much like Photoshop.
Yes, exactly, Marcia.
Oh, Marcia.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
you Photoshop guys got the edge.
Excuse me. For the heck of it, what we can see if how the multiply effect would have on the contrast on this thing too. So I'm going to reset this, and once again,
You can actually see
we'll use the
in a
same
lot of
image.
the scripts how Photoshop has shown its hand, like in this one here, the blending parameters, classic Photoshop, settings. Because that's where it all started with Photoshop. And then, it's grown into what it is today.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't even try to process a picture in Photoshop now.
But was there a time when that's all you guys used?
Yeah, that's all we
Oh, yeah.
used.
In the beginning, yeah.
Craig Stock still uses Photoshop. He stacks in PixInsight and then goes right to Photoshop.
Yeah.
I was curious what the multiply blending mode would do to this particular one. I'm going to reset the highlights here. But yeah, it darkens it up quite a bit, but it does try to, let's go the other way here. Yeah, that's something, I don't know if I'd want to use it on a Galaxy. But obviously the multiply darkens the darker areas and brightens the brighter areas. Not necessarily good in this particular case, but in any case, I was just curious what it would look like.
Put a
Any
mask on-
questions on this stuff? I mean, Chuck brought this up, and Marcia, I think you brought this up. No, actually, you didn't bring it up. But you know about this, and that is
yeah.
one of the things that this ImageBlend script has that I didn't show you guys, and I haven't even played with this myself. And that is, and I'm not sure how it would work. But you do under filter type have the ability of using high pass.
Yep, you can sharpen with that. It's the way we used to sharpen in Photoshop
Right,
before there was
exactly.
a sharpening.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to remember in Photoshop how I did it.
Well, you'd open up a new layer, you use high pass with either overlay or soft light, depending on how it affected it. And
Yeah, I think right. I would
you
use
could
the
you
same
could
image.
adjust it like the percentage.
Right, I used the same image on both layers. I'd set the filter type to high pass. I think you got to use replace to see how you want to adjust. So what I'm not sure of is this filter radius must determine what you're sharpening. I'm just trying to
Exactly.
figure that out now.
Exactly.
See, I'm not seeing much here though right now. No matter where I adjust this filter,
Well,
maybe if I go the other
it's
way.
take
Oh,
out
there it is.
replace
There
and
it is.
go.
There it is. So this would certainly affect those structures, the bigger structures here. Now, if I go to use something like soft overlay or soft light with that high pass filter, that's where the impact should be shown.
Right, there it
There you
is.
Oh,
go.
yeah, there it is. Yep.
So that you can see what it just did for sharpening. That's before and that's after. Before, after.
Yeah,
So
that's
you can
nice.
play with this high pass filter and see just how much sharpening you're going to get. So you can see what it's done.
It's nice because you can choose edges and not sharpen the noise and not go, not get it crunchy.
Right. So that's, you can see the before and after what it did with that high pass filter.
That's awesome.
So for what it's worth, if I don't know if any of you guys, I think Tom uses Lightroom, but if you guys there's some
Mhm.
interesting options in Lightroom to do a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, so much to learn.
I don't know what other filters we have here. Hue, blur. But so I guess we've shown you high
Yeah, the
pass.
blur would be like
What's that?
how your luminous was really sharp. It was really contrasty. Blur would be like a Gaussian blur where it's, you could soften those hard edges.
Right. Well, it's pretty cool though. And obviously the filter radius affects which size structures are being impacted. So you can play with that when you're zoomed in. So, it is an obvious way that you could potentially do some creative sharpening here too. I mean, I like MLT and PixInsight to control the size structures that I'm sharpening, but this is a cool way of doing it too, so I mean this is kind of affecting those size structures too, so the higher you go, the bigger the structures it's going to impact. So, but anyways,
You could also mask out stuff you didn't want, right?
very true. Yep, that's a good point.
Now, just to review on the blend modes, Kevin, because you were going back and forth between a bunch. Just the ones you were using was like multiply.
Yeah, so I mostly use screen to screen in
and
the like you could screen your stars back in. I use screen to add the color
okay.
from the different narrowband images in the way I wanted it. I used we were just using overlay and soft light in conjunction with the high pass filter for sharpening. And I used replace just so I could see what I was doing, So if you use replace, which is the top one,
Turning off the bottom layer.
it's it's actually turning off the top as long as you have the opacity set to 1. It basically shows you your blend, what you're affecting in your base image. So you can see what structures would be impacted now with the high pass filter. And you can use this slider here to adjust what gets addressed, what areas will get sharpened basically in the picture.
Sorry, if you're interested in the blend modes, you guys probably already know this, but there's a lot written about the blend modes in Photoshop, and they're the same here. So there's a lot to learn about the blend modes if you just look them up.
And if you if you basically just run your mouse over, it shows you the math for the different blend layers there. If that makes any difference to you.
I want to take a Photoshop class. Do they have them? Does that such a thing exist?
Say what?
A
Photoshop,
Photoshop
yeah.
class.
Oh yeah, there's a million of them. There, look for a woman called Julianne Kost, Kost. She's fabulous. And I think most of her stuff is free. And if there's stuff that you find, she's also got stuff on LinkedIn. If you want to talk to me, well, you can use my account. And she's great. She's a really good Photoshop and Lightroom teacher. Anyway, about the blend modes that, yeah, and Scott Kelby as well. Yeah.
No, this is a great book if you have Photoshop. Is Photoshop
So
Astronomy. This book is a great resource.
I can't read it, Chuck. Say what it says.
It's Photoshop Astronomy by Scott Ireland.
Huh,
I
I
don't know
don't
if you
know
can
him.
see it in my
I'll put it in
Put
the
it-
I'll put
low
it in the
focus.
chat if you want.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep, that'd be helpful.
And it comes with a CD tutorials. It takes you through all the aspects of Photoshop for processing photo images.
Just so overwhelming. I'm sure I felt the same way about PixInsight, which is still semi-overwhelming. But I mean, when I see people use Photoshop, it's like, what the heck are you doing? But yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
And
this is
Marsha did some magic for me the other day, which I still appreciate, Marsha. Thank you. I needed to convert it to 300 DPI, which she zipped, zap, and zapped again, and
Yeah.
then I had it in about a second. But thanks.
Good. You're welcome. Anytime.
yeah, and if you don't have Photoshop, GIMP is basically a clone of this, and this book would still work on GIMP because the processes are pretty much the same in the GIMP.
I did install GIMP. I did something with it once.
Kevin did a nice tutorial. Take a look in the history on Aldrich. Kevin did a nice tutorial with it.
On
Also,
GIMP?
yeah, and if you're interested in Photoshop and Astro, in addition to Chuck's book, Craig Stocks has got thousands of, well, I don't know about thousands, but a bunch of free videos, and he did a couple on the Astro Imaging channel as well. And he's really clear and and he's really prolific. So just
What's his
take a
name?
look.
Greg
Craig Stocks. He's one of the lens scratch guys. He's the guy who runs the desert remote observatories in Utah.
Stocks.
Yep. And look at the lens scratch articles. He's one of the interviews.
Well, I'm glad you were able to make it, Marsha.
Yeah, me too. I was so when I realized I had a conflict, I was like, oh crap. So anyway, hence I don't know if you saw my email earlier. I left right after I sent it, so I don't know. Okay. So I had a thought. Selfishly, I had a thought because I don't like missing these. So I want to have them on my calendar so I don't miss them. So I was wondering for 2026 about first finding a night that's good for most people. I'm sure there won't be a night that's good for everybody,
I
but
already
wait,
tried that.
okay,
Everybody's
but
got things on different nights.
wait. I know, but wait. So let me finish. So we'll find a night that's good for most people. And then look at the calendar from January to December and look at the full moon and pick whatever. So say we pick Tuesday, just to pick a night. So we'll pick the Tuesday that's closest to the full moon and do that every month. And then send out the calendar and say, this is when we're meeting every month. We have the date so that I don't schedule anything like I did tonight. I had it already on the calendar so that I can know, so that I don't want to miss this.
Right.
And we'll have people say, okay, I'll do January, I'll do March, whatever. And plan time every meeting for people to share images and ask questions. And if we don't have a topic, then we spend the whole meeting sharing images and asking questions. But then we'll know when it is. It'll be around the full moon, so we won't be wishing we were outside, right? Of course, it doesn't bother you because you have an observatory. The rest of us. Anyway, what do you think? Do we plan out the whole year, pick a day that works for everybody or nearly everybody, and
Well,
put it near
we can pick
full moon?
a night, the same night during the year. It may not always be that because here's the problem. Although it's not a problem, I guess, because what you just said, in that so far I'm the only one talking, right? So, but you brought it up.
I'm in line. I owe you.
Yeah, no, it's not just you, Marsha. I mean, it's everybody. And what I'm getting at is you brought up a good point, though. You could just share pictures. So
Right.
if we don't have a
Yeah,
speaker, you guys can talk amongst yourselves about whatever you want to talk about, right?
We'll talk about you, Kevin.
Well, that's fine. I don't mind. But no,
But you've had a few of the open forums, and I think those were pretty good because
Yeah.
people are talking about things that you don't even know that is your problem. until
Right,
stuff.
right,
Right. There's always
Right.
more to learn. Let me quote Donna. There's always more to learn. I'm right with you. But
right.
if we schedule it for the year and we schedule it during the full moon, then we'll all know, and I won't run over it with other calendar things, which I really
Right,
hate to do.
right. No, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Yep, we can
Okay.
do that. Yeah.
So
I would
for
love
every,
to teach something, but you guys are way ahead of me. It's time for me to train you. I was telling Marshall,
yeah, I don't know. Donna, we had
Yeah.
this conversation
I said
before.
I could teach you how to like make a loaf of bread because I can do that, but you know, I don't know if it's
Hey, I'm
gonna.
making bread now too. Sourdough bread. It's a new thing
Yeah.
for me.
That's what I make. Oh yeah, I
So
gave you a loaf.
let me just ask the group who are here, is there a night that does not work for you guys? So for each person, what's your preferred night and a night that does not work?
I always
I'm gonna,
make whenever they are, I try to make them. So
I'm going back
Yeah,
to gallery
yeah.
mode.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Whatever night is there, I try to make it. Sometimes I can't.
yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
does anybody know
Mm,
what
same
night
there, yeah.
Joe has band rehearsal? I don't know. Do you guys know what night that is?
I think
I
Joe has
don't.
band. I'm trying to think. I want to say Tuesday and Thursday night.
Okay.
Um, and
So
by
if
the
we
way,
said,
this is being recorded, so the guys that can't make it, this is the only night I could make it this month, believe it or not.
woo,
Yeah, the
okay.
whole month. So this was it
It's
for
a
me.
busy
Social
month for
butterfly you are.
everybody.
That's why I picked it. Um, but yeah, I think Joe's Tuesday and Thursday. I know Steve. See, here's where the problem comes in. Steve is babysitting his grandchildren. I want to say Wednesday for certain, maybe I don't know if it's
I
Thursday or Tuesday.
think
I
it's
forget.
thought it was the first half of the week, I think.
Yeah,
Tuesday, I think, yeah.
yeah, maybe Tuesday and when I know Wednesday for certain, but maybe it's Tuesday also. So
Hey, would you guys, how does
Well,
Friday sound, everybody?
I think at the minimum we should avoid the weekends. People make plans, they go away, they're
Friday,
going
right.
out to
Okay, yeah,
dinner, they're
good
doing
point, Joe.
things.
Yeah, okay. All
So I
right.
think Friday, Saturday, and maybe even Sunday should be left alone. And then,
Yeah,
try to
the
do it
Astros on
Monday
Sunday.
to Thursday. And perhaps what we should do is because we're kind of all over the place on our days, January would be a Monday, February would be in a Tuesday, and do that progressive all the way around. So that we're
everybody gets a
covering,
chance to come.
right.
It hits
Everybody gets
it hits a good day for everybody.
Mm.
right. And then, if it's a Wednesday in March, then we know, it's going to be March, whatever.
Yeah, it's the day that's closest to the full moon.
Yeah.
it's fine
That's
by
an
me.
interesting idea to walk through the days of the week. Are you guys okay with Mondays? You want to start on Tuesday? What's your pleasure? Tom, do you have days that work or
Monday,
don't for you?
we can do Monday through Thursday
It varies.
and
Yeah.
walk it month by month. And like you said, during the full moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever the day of the week is during the full moon. Tom, is there a day that is absolutely not good for you?
Not really. I have a lot of meetings that come up once in a while at night, but it varies. It's very random and sporadic, so you can't plan around it. But
I
any
love
night's
your
probably fine with me.
way. Okay. Mark, what do you think?
Pretty much any day works for me. I try to make them when they're scheduled.
Okay. Jay, I don't know you, but I thought I'd check in too.
Um, I'm kind of flexible. I like the idea of not doing weekends. Um, I'm probably more towards the end of the week than the beginning of the week, but not. I'm pretty flexible.
So
I
what,
just like the fact that we know the meetings in advance. It's kind of
yeah,
tough
that's
to kind
important
of
for me.
as
Yeah.
we.
I
Yep.
just did a quick run through of the year for full moons, and there's only a couple of them that are in the weekend phase. Most of them are during the week.
Okay. So
Now that
I
I
like your
think
idea of,
Now that I think about it, I do go to those mop things and they have them monthly and they're always on Tuesday, once a month. I don't know if they do them around the full moon or not, but now that I'm thinking about it. Tuesdays,
okay, we
like,
could have,
that's my least good day, but otherwise, and they record it, you guys record it. I mean, everybody's recording too, so you can always catch up.
Chuck, I like your idea of changing days. We could skip Tuesdays and respect MOP.